The Sahara Desert, that vast and unforgiving landscape, has been completely sealed off by authorities. That's right. The entire desert has been mysteriously shut down after a shocking discovery. But why? Let's find out in this video. The Sahara Desert, spanning approximately 9 million square kilometers across North Africa, is often synonymous with extreme conditions and harsh landscapes. The landscape is made up of rocky plateaus, empty plains, and what looks like an endless sea of sand dunes. During the daytime, it can get over 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes it one of the hottest places on Earth. The temperature can drop below freezing at night, causing a big difference in just one day. It doesn't rain very often in the Sahara. Some places get less than 25 millimeters, 1 inch, of rain a year. It is hard for plants to survive because it doesn't rain much. The few plants that do exist are hardy types like cacti, acacia trees, and tough shrubs that have learned to survive in the dry conditions. These plants have thick leaves or spines that keep water from evaporating and deep roots that reach groundwater. The animals that live in the Sahara are also very interesting. The fennec fox, which has big ears that help keep it cool, and the dromedary camel, which can go for long periods without water, have evolved to thrive in this harsh environment. The camel is especially well suited to life in the desert because it stores fat in its hump to sustain it during long walks through the dunes. It wasn't always this empty in the Sahara Desert. Studies of its geology and climate have shown that it has changed a lot over thousands of years. The Sahara was very different from what it is today between about 11,000 and 5,000 years ago. During the African humid period, changes in the Earth's orbit and axial tilt caused more monsoon rains during this time. These changes affected how the planet received solar radiation and how much of it received. Over the course of the African humid period, the Sahara turned into a green, livable area with lakes, rivers, and lots of plants. The green Sahara created a place where plants and animals could grow and where early human societies could form. Archaeological evidence from this time includes the bones of large animals like hippos, crocodiles, and different kinds of fish, which show that there were large bodies of water nearby. People were able to settle and grow in the Sahara because of the Rainier conditions. Ancient tools, pottery, and rock art that show animals and people give us a look into the lives of those who lived there before us. In places like the Tassili Integer in Algeria, rock art shows people hunting, dancing, and herding, suggesting a culture that was alive and well. About 5,000 years ago, the monsoon rains that had turned the Sahara into a lush, green landscape stopped coming. Once more, the weather changed, and the Sahara turned back into the dry desert we know today. As the lakes and rivers dried up, many early human groups had to move to areas that were easier to live in. However, some resilient groups were able to adapt to the worsening conditions. The story of the Garamantian Empire is one of the most interesting ones about human adaptation to life in the Sahara. The Garamantes were an ancient people who lived in the southwestern Libyan desert and thrived from about 400 BCE to 400 CE. The Garamantes are often seen as a strong and intelligent group who found clever ways to survive in a harsh environment. Their civilization was based in the region of Fezzan, now in Libya, a place with extreme aridity, very little rain, and high temperatures. Despite these challenges, the Garamantes managed to create a network of fortified towns and villages, perfected their farming methods, and became a significant force in the region. Their society was well organized, with clear social classes, a complex government, and large trade networks. One of the main reasons the Garamantes succeeded was due to a combination of favorable environmental conditions and new technology. The climate in the Sahara Desert has changed over time, making it as harsh as it is today. During the African humid period, the Sahara was much wetter, which allowed a lot of water to seep into the ground and be stored in huge underground aquifers. By the time the Garamantes became an established civilization, these wetter times had ended, but the groundwater reserves were still there. The Garamantes chose to live in a location where they could access this groundwater. Under the Fezzan area lay the Nubian sandstone aquifer system, one of the world's largest and oldest aquifers. This aquifer, which was formed when the Sahara was wetter, held water that could be used for drinking and farming. It was fortunate that they lived in an area where the rock formations allowed easy access to these hidden water sources. The favorable topography and geology, along with this vast aquifer, provided the Garamantes with the crucial resources they needed to survive. Yet, their success wasn't due to environmental luck alone. The Garamantes were able to make the most of this resource through ingenious water collection methods. They used an ancient water-gathering technique called phageras, also known as canets, a series of gently sloping underground tunnels built from below the water table to the surface. This clever system, first used in Persia, allowed groundwater to naturally flow from the aquifer to the fields and settlements. The Garamantes adapted and enhanced this technology to meet their needs in the unique conditions of their environment. They constructed an extensive network of these phagera tunnels stretching over 750 kilometers. Along the tunnel routes, vertical shafts were dug at regular intervals, which allowed people to perform maintenance and keep them functional. These shafts also allowed air to circulate through the tunnels. The Garamantes' phagera systems not only supported their agriculture, but also enabled the growth of their cities. The steady water supply allowed towns and villages to develop, with fortified settlements spread across the Fezzan region. Often, these settlements were purposefully placed near phagera systems, ensuring a constant water supply for farming and household use. The phagera systems were more than just a technological innovation. They were essential to Garamantian society. The Garamantes' expertise in managing groundwater allowed them to build a stable and prosperous society in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The Garamantes' reliance on groundwater for survival, however, proved to be a double-edged sword. The Nubian sandstone aquifer, the underground water source that once sustained their civilization, began to dry up. Various factors contributed to the depletion of groundwater levels, which ultimately had devastating effects on Garamantian society. Initially, the groundwater was a limited resource, and the Sahara Desert, that vast and unforgiving landscape, has been completely sealed off by authorities. That's right, the entire desert has been mysteriously shut down after a shocking discovery. But why? Let's find out in this video. The Sahara Desert, spanning approximately 9 million square kilometers across North Africa, is often synonymous with extreme conditions and harsh landscapes. The landscape consists of rocky plateaus, empty plains, and what looks like an endless sea of sand dunes. At daytime, it can get over 50 degrees Celsius (122 degrees Fahrenheit), making it one of the hottest places on Earth. Temperatures can drop below freezing at night, creating a big difference within a single day. Rain is rare in the Sahara, with some areas receiving less than 25 millimeters, 1 inch, annually. Due to the low rainfall, plants struggle to survive. However, the few that do exist are hardy species like cacti, acacia trees, and tough shrubs that have adapted to dry conditions. These plants have thick leaves or spines that prevent water from evaporating and deep roots that reach underground water sources. The animals in the Sahara are equally fascinating. The fennec fox, with its large ears that help keep it cool, and the dromedary camel, which can go long periods without water, are well adapted to the harsh desert environment. The camel is particularly suited to desert life, storing fat in its hump to sustain it during long journeys across the dunes. Interestingly, the Sahara Desert was not always this barren. Geological and climate studies reveal that it has undergone significant changes over thousands of years. Between about 11,000 and 5,000 years ago, during the African humid period, changes in Earth's orbit and axial tilt caused more monsoon rains. This period of increased rainfall turned the Sahara into a green, habitable area with lakes, rivers, and abundant plant life. The Green Sahara provided a thriving ecosystem that supported diverse flora and fauna, creating an environment where early human societies could flourish. Archaeological evidence from this time includes remains of large animals like hippos, crocodiles, and various fish species, indicating the presence of substantial water bodies. People settled and grew in the Sahara, encouraged by the favorable conditions. Ancient tools, pottery, and rock art showing animals and people engaged in activities give us insights into the lives of these early inhabitants. In Algeria's Tassili Niger, rock art depicting hunting, dancing, and herding points to a vibrant culture that thrived around 5,000 years ago. Eventually, however, the monsoon rains that had transformed the Sahara ceased. The climate shifted once again, turning the Sahara back into the arid desert we recognize today. As lakes and rivers dried up, Many human groups had to relocate to more hospitable areas, although some resilient populations adapted to the increasingly difficult conditions. One of the most compelling stories of human adaptation in the Sahara is that of the Garamantian Empire. The Garamantes were an ancient people who thrived in the southwestern Libyan desert between around 400 BCE and 400 CE. They are often regarded as a resourceful and resilient society, adept at surviving in a challenging environment. Centered in the Fezzan region, now part of modern Libya, the Garamantian civilization faced extreme aridity, minimal rainfall, and scorching temperatures. Despite these obstacles, the Garamantes built a network of fortified towns and villages, perfected their agricultural techniques, and became a formidable force in the region. Their society was well organized, with defined social classes, a complex government structure, and extensive trade networks. The Garamantes' success can be attributed to a combination of favorable environmental conditions and innovative technology. While the Sahara was much drier by the time the Garamantes established their civilization, the underground aquifers that had formed during wetter periods remained accessible. Beneath the Fezzan region lay the Nubian sandstone aquifer system, one of the world's largest and oldest aquifers. Formed during a wetter era, this aquifer held enough water to sustain the Garamantes for many generations. The geology of the Fezzan region, combined with the presence of this vast aquifer, provided the Garamantes with the crucial resource they needed to survive in such a harsh landscape. However, environmental luck was only part of the Garamantes' success story. They also employed advanced water harvesting techniques, particularly the ancient Foggara system, also known as Cannet. This ingenious water management system consisted of gently sloping underground tunnels that directed groundwater from the aquifer to the surface. Originally developed in Persia, the Garamantes adapted and expanded this technology to suit their needs. Their Foggara network extended over 750 kilometers, with vertical shafts built at intervals to facilitate maintenance and allow airflow. Constructing a Foggara system began with identifying a water source, typically an aquifer or a water-rich soil layer. The process started by digging a mother well to access the groundwater, from which a horizontal tunnel was created to carry water downhill. Vertical shafts, dug at regular intervals along the tunnel, served as access points for construction and maintenance. The water collected in these Foggara tunnels was then distributed to farms and communities, enabling the Garamantes to cultivate crops, raise animals, and maintain a stable population. Wheat, barley, dates, and various fruits and vegetables were grown, supporting a prosperous urban life across the Fezzan region. The Foggara system showcased the Garamantes' engineering expertise and their commitment to sustainable water management. By preventing significant water loss through evaporation and shielding water from the intense desert sun, the system ensured a steady water supply. Despite their ingenuity, the Garamantes eventually faced insurmountable challenges as the aquifer's water supply diminished. The Nubian sandstone aquifer, which had sustained their civilization for centuries, began to dry up due to a combination of factors. The limited recharge rate of the aquifer, the increasing demands of a growing population, and prolonged periods of drought all contributed to the depletion of this critical resource. As the groundwater level dropped, the once thriving Foggara systems became increasingly ineffective, with wells drying up and water flow slowing to a trickle. This loss of water had severe consequences for agriculture, the economy, and the daily lives of the Garamantes, ultimately leading to the abandonment of settlements and the collapse of their society. The story of the Garamantes serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of societies dependent on a single, finite resource. It also holds valuable lessons for modern civilizations facing similar issues with groundwater depletion and environmental sustainability.